Hi, so I just wanted to do a review of Disclosure Day and some things I specifically noticed within the film, and then also some thoughts and opinions I have on a real Disclosure Day. So I thought this film was overall an excellent film and 100% worth seeing, specifically because I think it's very thought-provoking and it will take you down some rabbit holes. So, this is a film directed by Steven Spielberg, and he's one of the best directors of all time. Of course, he's done Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Hook. Hook is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, so is Saving Private Ryan, but like Hook holds a special place in my childhood heart. So, um, here are some things that I noticed within the film that maybe you noticed as well, or you'll notice after you watch it. So, one of the things that I noticed was the use of calming. Calming was very important in this film because it got you to the Disclosure Day itself. Without the use of calming techniques, it would not have been successful. So calming was used in multiple instances, and I'm just gonna list off some, and then kind of like give it a little brief explanation, but not give too many details or spoilers away. So I thought calming was used with the rosary. I thought it brought the character off the edge and gave her a sense of stability. I think it saved her in the end from doing something she didn't want to do. And I thought that was very important. Even when she was fighting, against specific technology and trying to get a sense of self back, I thought it saved her in a way. And I think that made Christianity stronger within the film. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But I also thought that it was used through the manipulation of sight and in the abduction scene when the girl sees animals. And then also through Emily Blunt's character as well. I thought that manipulation of sight is very important within this film. So Emily Blunt stays herself, but she's able to trick your mind into seeing somebody specific, or able to read your mind a little bit to kind of, have a conversation with you and get you related to something, and that calms you down. And I think that was very important. And I think that it was also very, disturbing. Manipulation of sight, because she didn't always realize she was doing it. It was kind of like a hypnosis. And it was very interesting. I mean, it took you down some rabbit holes, especially after you left the movie theater. You thought to yourself, well, if they really existed, like, if aliens or extraterrestrials or whatever really existed and they were able to do this specific thing, there's so many crazy things could happen with this manipulation of the senses, specifically sight. And you're like, well, who's to say like they're not manipulating your sight constantly, or manipulating what you see and walking around, you, and you're tricking your mind. Or like, who's to say that you're always seeing who you think you're seeing? You know what I mean? So it kind of takes you down some rabbit holes, and it's a kind of a hypnosis, a manipulation, and a taking over of your mind. And that's a bit trippy, you know what I mean? So that takes you down some rabbit holes, and I could definitely go deeper into that, but that's just some thoughts I have on that. Now, in regards to Christianity, I think that this movie definitely strengthened the case for Christianity. And I say that because I saw the rosary scene being very significant, and also a conversation within the film in which the nun, is telling one of the characters, you know, something specific. And I just think that it strengthens the case for Christianity, and I don't think it threatens it in any way. I do want to point out one of the things that I've read within the UFO, UAP world is the passage in Genesis when they mention giants. And, they don't give specifically what they look like or how they are, but that they interacted with, human beings, and that they created like really amazing humans. I forget what it says exactly, but I know there's a passage in Genesis. I think it mentions something called the Nephilim or something. I don't know how to pronounce. I don't know specifically. I don't want to act like I'm an expert on that. But I definitely don't think it threatens it. And I just want to leave off on that because I don't want to dig too deep on that subject. And then the idea of empathy within the film was so very important. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if you haven't seen it, there's a scene where this little kid, has having communication with aliens, and then he he ends up being abducted, and it's quite a terrifying scene. Lights are coming through the vents, toys are turning on. You feel a sense of helplessness and empathy for the mom, and feeling like a lack of control, and that she's like losing her son, and you really feel scared and sad at that point in that movie. But within this film, you felt an overwhelming sense of empathy, not for specifically humans, but specifically aliens, because in a lot of the scenes within the film, they were very vulnerable situations, and you felt like they were on a level playing field as far as, they can be hurt. They can, be vulnerable just like you. And you felt like you don't want them to do that to you, and you don't want to do that to them. And it felt like a level playing field. And there was one scene where an alien is like sitting next to a crash site, and you're just like, you feel really bad for the alien. I'm going to continue on in the next video.